is Fox Across America with Jimmy Fallon, America's life coach, trying to hold this place together, and we're calling in some serious backup now. Joining us on the show, he is a superstar congressman from Florida's 1st Congressional District. He's an author. He's a podcast host. One of the few conservatives that hasn't been kicked off Twitter. Matt Gaetz is back on the show. Hey, man.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy. I don't know, by the end of this interview, we will probably lose another 50,000 Twitter followers and get deplatformed from at least 3 other entities, have our MattGaetz.com donation page shut down, and get censured by the House of Representatives. So let's give it a go.
Yo, I have been refreshing my page because I figured you'd be gone by now. I was like, there's just no way he's still on there. But you're on here.
I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. The most recent deplatforming effort from the corporate political action committees has impacted me not one bit, because all the Republicans are freaking out that these corporate PACs aren't going to fund their campaigns anymore. Well, many months ago, I think more than a year ago, I became the first Republican, the only Republican in Congress to say their money is no good for me. So I deplatformed the corporate PACs before they could deplatform me.
Look at that. You and Ro Khanna were skipping town on the corporates before it was cool. Take a bow for that.
Exactly. Where all trends start with Matt Gaetz and Ro Khanna.
By the way, speaking of losing things, I did want to make sure Jim Jordan didn't talk you into betting Ohio State last night.
No. Jim and I were actually on Sean Hannity's program last night celebrating the fact that the president gave Jim, the highest civilian honor a president can give, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So we were super honored by Jim's achievement and his contribution to the country. But yeah, you do not want to mess with the SEC in a national championship game. They really got it rolling down there in Bama.
Yeah, I know. And I was watching. I caught a minute of you and Jordan on Hannity. I just think it's a shame that he had to wake up this morning and pawn the medal to pay back the bookie.
What do those go for now? I don't know.
we gotta ask around. Let me ask you this, man, because of all the things you really are good at, you're very good at shooting straight with me. Are the Democrats serious when they say they want to unify this country?
No, they're trying to unify the Democratic Party.
Thank you.
All the things you're watching right now with the removal and impeachment efforts, they're not about the president, and they're not about the country. It's all about the fact that the Democrats right now are a very loosely organized coalition. And the Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi Democrats have very little in common with the Ilhan Omar, Ocasio-Cortez Democrats. Focus on Trump was the only thing that allowed them to keep it together at all. And so they're going to try to maintain that focus for as long as possible. Here's how they're going to do it. During the Biden transition, when we should be scrutinizing his picks, when we should be reviewing his agenda to see if it's right for the country, they're going to engage in this removal effort with the 25th Amendment talk. Then, they're going to have an impeachment trial, and Nancy Pelosi will hold those articles of impeachment and, allow them to be unleashed on the Senate at a politically opportune time. So this is their way to keep Donald Trump in the forefront as long as possible. And while it's certainly dark that they're doing this, my prediction is that Donald Trump is going to come out even stronger. Just look at what's happening on social media. I mean, it was like yesterday that, Google and Facebook lost tens of billions of dollars in value because it turns out social media isn't all that interesting without Donald Trump on it.
Yeah, really.
And so they're losing value, they're losing followers, and someone's going to go scoop that value up. My prediction is that Donald Trump is going to start launching his own platforms, and that those tens of billions of dollars in value that have been surrendered by the Silicon Valley woke-topians may be utilized by America First patriots who want to continue to communicate our message and get the truth out to the country.
And I think people would appreciate that, too, because the Democrats, couldn't leave well enough alone on this one, in that they did score some political capital last week, which with an awful event that we've all roundly condemned. But it wasn't enough for them. So that is my question to you, Matt Gaetz. Are they using the events at the Capitol for power, but kind of framing it as progress in terms of all of these deplatformings and shutdowns? They're saying it's because they care about the country, but there's a higher calling here for them, no?
Well, they are saying exactly what they mean. I mean, when you see the head of ABC News, or I'm sorry, not the head, but one of their principal executives saying that there needs to be a cleansing of the Trump movement. I don't know what that means, but when we're talking about cleansing our fellow human beings, it's pretty scary and it's pretty dark. And so, I think that there is an effort here to try to reorient the country where we're unable to even have debate over these questions. I mean, I think they're coming for the guns. I mean, you already see them forecasting a big gun control push. They're going to devalue our currency and hand out money as sort of the next step in socialism. And they don't want any of us around to be able to raise objection and facilitate discussion and debate and discourse. They just want to seize power, and they are launching that effort today with their effort to try to get the vice president to invoke the 25th Amendment.
That's scary, man, because it's true. It's so transparent. They're not even making an effort to conceal this. By the way, if you're just joining us, Matt Gaetz is on the line. He is, of course, barely clinging to the title of best hair in Congress right now. We've got a challenger to the throne. Did we discuss this?
We did not. Who out there is the future of the congressional hair movement?
I don't want to put pressure on him because he's just a rookie. But little old Madison Cawthorn, who is the youngster just elected to Congress, was on a few weeks ago. Gaetz. He doesn't have Matt Gaetz hair, but you can see the beginnings of a franchise quarterback.
It's early, but he's really got to build volume. Madison's got he's got the blonde kind of wispy hair. I hear some chicks are into that kind of thing. But if you really want like best hair in Congress, you have to have height, you have to have volume, and you have to have consistency.
Listen, I appreciate that you received this with some words of encouragement and at the same time kind of defending your own honor. I didn't want to get him thrown off any of the committees for saying that. But he's out there. I just want you to know. He's a ranked team. Go ahead.
On a serious note, there are no committees right now.
Yeah,
The reason the Democrats are pushing an impeachment now is because if we actually had organized the committee process, the Judiciary Committee, the Oversight Committee, there would be thoughtfulness and review and reflection. But Democrats are just normalizing the most vicious of political tools, wanting to have these reflexive impeachments. And so, nobody's on any committee right now because for the Democrats, setting up the committees to do the work of the people is less important than exercising their, frankly, anti-democratic impulses to remove a president and not allow him to serve out the remaining week of his duly elected term.
Yeah, which is absurd, by the way. What, we got 8 days to go? I mean, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and it comes back to what we were saying earlier. It's that if you had any interest in unifying this country, you're not doing the most inflammatory thing that could be done. And that's the part that drives me crazy, is I don't know that they either lack self-awareness or they're just shamelessly advancing this lie that they care about the country. But it's frustrating either way.
Or how about lay out some policy?
Yeah.
Like, how about tell us what the plan is for the American people who just want to live better lives? Is that too much to ask for the party that's about to have unified control of the government?
To that I say amen and a woman, meaning yes, it probably is too serious. It's absurd, Matt Gaetz. But I got to ask you about this because you were the one who told me when they were yelling at the big tech titans up on Congress that it was just political theater and nothing was going to become of it. Has anything changed this week in the fact that they threw the president off Twitter, or do people actually welcome that sort of thing enough that there's not going to be a stomach to try to hold these guys accountable?
I'll tell you the same thing I told you then.
Really?
Big tech owns Congress with political donations, with employment opportunities for the friends and family members of people who get elected to the House of Representatives and the Senate.
Yep.
And there is no way that this institution is going to marshal itself to create that freedom online. Now, I was hopeful that some of these Trump appointees on the Federal Election Commission and Federal Communication Commission could start to change the behavior of some of these tech companies. But, I talked to some powerful Republicans recently that said, let's go find Elizabeth Warren and see if she's still down to absolutely break up these big tech monopolies. There might be some unity with the right-wing populists and the left-wing populists to break up big tech. And it will be interesting to see if that type of a coalition can be built.
Yeah, I mean, I think people would appreciate it at this point because there's no way it's helping the country, and especially if you are somebody who's concerned about, toxic ideas, it benefits all of us to have them out in the open. I mean, that's the whole point of the First Amendment, is that the sunlight is the disinfectant to stuff like that.
Well, Jimmy, this is the front end of the wave. Like, you haven't seen the worst of it. Okay, like, what's coming is that you're going to have a lot of these like woke-topian cable providers and digital providers, saying that they're not going to carry Fox News, or maybe they might just not carry a particular hour that is uniquely provocative and insightful, Tucker Carlson. And maybe they will change the way that campaigns like mine that don't rely on big corporations, we have to have regular Americans go to mattgaetz.com and give me $7 or $8 to kind of keep the operation moving, and payment processing could be in jeopardy in the future. So this is not like the worst of it. I believe that the way these people are going to try to consolidate power is not by beating us in an election or a debate or a vote, but by driving us out of the national discussion.
That I 1,000% agree with you, and I think if people don't fight now, it'll be too late in the game. Like the fight back, I mean, would you agree with that the pushback has to be here, right?
I mean, we're having this discussion about political discourse, but I could just see the media articles that are coming. Matt Gaetz and Jimmy Fallon go from life coach to inciting violence by telling people to fight. The reality is that, like, if we continue to self-censor, which is the direction I see, they sort of win without even having to put their ideas forward and have them criticized. So, yes, I think now is the time for conservatives to stand up. That's hard because we did have some goons and fools and idiots really put a stain on our movement unfairly. And the tens of millions of Americans who still believe in animating the policies that were so successful for our country during the first 4 years of the president's time in office, need to ensure that we continue to make that argument. And it's not going to be easy. There are strong headwinds in front of us. But at the end of the day, I actually think we're right. I think that America is best when our government serves our people. I actually think unchecked immigration kind of sucks for our folks. I think getting involved in these endless wars doesn't inure to our benefit. So, like, while it may seem tough right now because it's hard to find a place to make the argument, if we persevere through this, if we're stronger on the other side of it, we're going to win because our ideas are better.
I'm with you, man. That was rousing stuff. If you could listen closely, the staff was humming "America the Beautiful" as you said it. That was good. That was good stuff. And by the way, to your Mediaite reference, which I thought was really funny, the thing they're going to focus on is you claiming you have the heavyweight championship of hair in Congress. They couldn't let you have that. There's no way.
Listen, you said that, Jimmy. I just agreed with you because you know what? When America's life coach is right, he's right.
There it is. Likes are not necessarily endorsements, as the kids like to say on the Twitter. Matt Gaetz, really quick, by the way, I have to congratulate you on getting engaged. Did you notice that when you announce you're getting engaged, single people congratulate you, married people take a pull from a flask in their jacket?
I just know that there's a video on Twitter where the first person to scream something upon my engagement was Judge Janine, and she screamed, "He's giving up the single life." So it was interesting that I had her ringing endorsement.
That's hilarious. Well, if you're married as long as I am, I'm married 15 years. My wife actually got me a Tinder account for Christmas, so you'll get it back.
Wow! I was going to say, married for 15 years. How many of them have been happy?
Yeah. Well, listen, that's all the time we have for Matt on our show. No, listen, man, always great to catch up, man. I do appreciate you, buddy. Best of luck, and we'll stay in touch.
All right. Thanks so much for having me on.
My man. There he goes. The great Matt Gaetz.
This is Congressman Matt Gaetz. If you liked that video, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and join us on our daily podcast, Hot Takes with Matt Gaetz, on your favorite podcast listening platform.